A guten Erev Shabbos. By the time we were playing the game with the babysitters, it was already called Chutes and Ladders. Once upon a time, according to the historians, it was called Snakes and Ladders. But kids were afraid of snakes, so Milton Bradley changed the snakes to chutes. Fewer bad dreams after that, apparently. If you remember that game, maybe it crossed your mind when we read about Jacob's ladder this week. Since the ladder figured so prominently in this week's portion, let's think in a little bit more depth about ladders. In particular, three kinds of ladders. The mysterious one in Jacob's dream, Parshas Vayeitzei, with angels ascending and descending. Another kind of ladder, the ladder of our lives, what it means for us in our day-to-day. And thirdly, one that we've been talking about in our Friday morning group over the summer and into the fall, the ladder of prayer. The image is a familiar one. Yaakov, Jacob, is fleeing to Haran after the incident last week with his father and his brother, where he dressed like Esav to get the blessings from their father Yitzchak. Along the way, traveling along, Yaakov puts his head down to sleep, and he dreams of a ladder with its feet planted on the ground and its top touching heavenward. Sulam mutzav arza, v'roshai megia hashamayma. And he sees angels ascending and descending. That's what it says. Olim v'yordim bo. You would think the other way. Wouldn't angels descend, come down from heaven, and then ascend? In fact, the wording is deliberate. These angels were accompanying him to the edge of the border of the land of Israel. They would hand off watching him to the next shift of angels who were responsible for him once he left Israel. And the angels who had clocked out, were returning to heaven as their relief shift descended to accompany their charge further on his journey. Different sets of angels inside of Israel and outside of Israel, according to Rashi. So that's the angels and their use of this ladder to attend to Yaakov on his way. Clearly, we all need divine protection and accompaniment wherever we go for any number of reasons, as those of us who travel know quite well. Another perspective on the ladder comes from the Slonim Rebbe, Rabbi Shalom Berezovsky, who lived all but the first 10 years of the 20th century. He writes that the divine intention is that Jews should combine working for a living with living a life of holiness. Now, if you believe everything you read in the papers, there's this thought that Orthodox rabbis or fervently Orthodox rabbis don't believe in work, only Torah study. Here we have a very different point of view. The Slonim Rebbe writes that when we engage with the world in order to make a living, that is precisely the way we get to holiness. He quotes Midrash Rabbah on the ladder image to say that Jacob's ladder is planted on the altar in the temple where the offerings are made. The ladder itself is the ramp that the Kohanim walked up to ascend to the altar, and that careful maneuvering to get to a higher place is really the whole point of us being in this world. When we integrate our holy souls with the world around us, we ascend the ladder like the reach nichoach, the pleasant fragrance of the offerings in the temple. That actually helps him explain two verses in the dream. In verse 16, where Jacob says, "Surely God is in this place, and I did not know it." Didn't Yaakov know that the whole world is filled with God's glory? Like we say in Kedusha, Melo kol haaretz kavodo. The whole earth is filled with God's glory. Until now, Jacob was only involved in Torah study and learning. It was easy to connect to godliness. Now he understood another dimension. We can get close to God anywhere we are, using our work as the means to connect. Similarly, God told Yaakov in the previous verse, "I am with you and I will watch you wherever you go." Didn't God watch over Yaakov anyway? But here Yaakov sees, and we see, that even, or especially, when he goes to work for a living and deals with all kinds of personalities like Lavan, God is protecting him there also. The third perspective of a ladder worth talking about, we discussed in our Friday morning class much of the spring and summer. By the way, that gathering's open to everyone. You don't have to listen to the class. You can also just come for a bagel and coffee and good company. Everyone is welcome to join. We look forward to seeing you there. So we eat, we drink a little coffee, we schmooze, and we talk a little bit. And this last couple months, we talk about how prayer starts off, even before it starts off, with a person preparing themselves for prayer. This could mean coming to a special place, like, for example, a shul, or the place at home where you usually daven, when you daven at home. It could mean putting on a special garment as a sign to yourself that you're preparing yourself for a holy task. Washing your hands, giving tzedakah, to do something for other people's needs before we ask for our own needs. Could be meditation or reflection to get ourselves in the proper frame of mind to address HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the source of our life, and all that we know and all that we have. The Talmud famously talks about the righteous ones of olden times who used to pray for an hour before prayer. They would pray that they would be worthy to pray. That's before you even step on the ladder. Then the first rung or step is the morning blessings, where we acknowledge with thanks all that we have and where it comes from. Then comes the second step on this ladder of prayer, Psuke de Zimra, where we broaden our view, train ourselves to look with appreciation at what is even further afield, not just our own surroundings, our own clothes, our own abilities, but the larger world around us. A third step we're ready for after Baruch Hu, that's the Shema and its blessings. Once we notice the multiplicity of beauty and inspiration around us, we're ready to acknowledge the unified source of everything, God's true oneness, which we say in Shema. And then, when we've worked our way up this ladder of spiritual preparation and awareness, we're standing at the top, the fourth step, the pinnacle of our climb. When we're there, the text that we're learning told us, we're like servants before the master. Yes, we know that's an old metaphor, but it still works in some sense. At that point, we're ready to express our needs and ask for what we want from a place of awareness, mindfulness, that we are created to be connected to God, and that all we ask for ourselves is really in the service of that project. After that, we wind down with Tachanun, Ashrei Uvolatzion, Aleinu, a psalm for the day. We're sort of climbing back down the ladder the other side. But we're transformed, or different, or at least we're aware that things could be different as this new day begins. The message here is that daily prayer is more than just going through the words in the Siddur, more than just getting finished and moving on. Oftentimes, prayer is seen as a chore, it's a duty, something that we have to get through or finish so we can move on with what we really want to do. What we learned or got more insight into from this book that we were studying over the last couple months is that prayer itself should be something that we want. Not in our way, but that's what we actually desire. And it is, if we see it as not standing in our way, but rather a daily chance, a daily opportunity for growth and challenge and connection, it becomes a real spiritual moment. They say in life, it doesn't matter which rung of the ladder you're on, it only matters which direction you're climbing. Now, there's a truth to that, as well as the truth that there is a ladder to begin with. Not only in our dreams, but in our waking conscious day, we can realize that every day in life offers us one, or maybe even more than one, opportunities to lift ourselves up, elevate our lives, strive for something higher, if we ourselves rise to the challenge. Shabbat Shalom.